Alrighty, welcome back everyone. So in case you guys missed it, last night our Part 2 LR was officially announced, and it is none other than LR Pikkon. Now, with his announcement, we have his animations and his kit details, so today, of course, we gotta go ahead and break him down. But this is gonna be a bit different from our usual breakdown type of vids on the channel. Of course, we are gonna go ahead and look at the animations and the kit details, but beyond that, I wanna go ahead and also fixate a bit more on his categories, the links he has to offer, as well as talking about what sort of general hidden potential build you may want on the character, and by the end of the vid, I'll also talk about how well he may perform with the April Fool's Dokkan STR Cell, because that has been a big question for a lot of people, so we'll talk about that in the vid today as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the vid. If you do, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, show your support, comment down below what do you guys think about the new LR Pikkon, and comment down below what do you guys think about the new format for the vid, of course, when it comes to breaking down kits and everything. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So of course, first thing I want to do is to go ahead and check out this character's animations and see what he can do. Let me make sure the volume is good right there. We'll see how the animations look, and then from there we'll go into his kit details and everything beyond that. So let's go ahead and check out these animations here. So with Pikkon, so notice he has no intro. This is from like the this is the AGL Pikkon OST, I believe, with the active, but obviously we see the Hyper Tornado looking very clean. They really did a good job with this, I will say. I mean, look at the way it's flowing. It actually engulfs the unit right there, which is actually a really nice touch. Obviously the way it's flowing, it's really, really clean. And then we have the active here. So obviously this OST is actually kind of fire. I did not expect this type of OST for a Pikkon. The way they flowed with the animation is actually kind of clean, of course. Yeah, this is kind of clean. Obviously, this is from when he bodied Cell and everyone. Or actually, this is when he bodied King Cole, I guess. But still, obviously, he's got like the burning shoe right there. This is his 12-key super. So this should be for both the base form and the active Pikkon, right? Like the transformed Pikkon. So that's going to be the 12-key. The 18-key with the transformation, Thunder Flash. You knew it was going to happen. You knew it had to happen when Pikkon took off the weighted clothing. You knew this was what they had to do. This is fire. Literally, this is fire. Like, this is actually pretty clean. I will say, so one thing you may be wondering, where is the other 12-key super? So the way they designed this character, I did get a chance to look at his kit to a good degree last night, so just a bit of a spoiler there, I guess. But Pikkon only has one type of 12-key super, which is that burning shoe, where obviously, you know, it's the thing you see right there, where it's like his first super with his active right here. So this is his 12-key super for his base and for his transformation. He does have that 18-key Thunder Flash, and this is the 18-key in his base right here with his Hyper Tornado. Now, me personally, I will say, some people may think I'm a bit of a hater when it comes to STR Cell with this sort of aspect, and to be fair, I did make a STR Cell hate rant vid, of course, but for Pikkon, I think his animations look a lot better than Cell. That's just me personally, but the way his Hyper Tornado looks right here, of course, the way it engulfs the character, of course, I didn't get the shot right there, but the way it actually engulfs the opponent character, the way it just shows how it flows and everything, it looks so clean to me. The Thunder Flash, of course, looks really clean, of course. I mean, his active, the way the motion is showing with him throwing his, like, weighted clothing and everything, it looks all clean to me. So, animations-wise, I really like what this character is showing off. He's not the most hyped character in terms of animations, of course. I know some people were kind of upset we didn't get like a Super Kaioken Goku, but he still looks pretty clean nonetheless. Now, of course, yeah, we talked about the animations, but we need to really focus on the kit, because that is what really matters for Pikkon, especially considering he is the final character before we go into the Golden Week celebration by the end of this month, which is, of course, one of the biggest celebrations within a year of Dokkan. In my opinion, probably like the 4th biggest celebration, but still, we got that coming very soon, so of course, we have to see what Pikkon can do. Now, of course, you know, talk about what he's capable of. He is a super physical type of character. We'll talk about that when we talk about the hidden potential in just a bit. But of course, you know, just basic Pikkon. Now, first thing is first, I want to mention why this is important. So, with his name and how it's designed, right, being just Pikkon, that means he cannot link at all with the AGL Pikkon who just got his EZA. AGL Pikkon is a really good EZA, but because, of course, you know, the way this Pikkon is named and everything, they cannot link with each other. So that does suck in that respect, but it is what it is. Now, let's go ahead and just look at the character, of course. So, with his leader skill, right, he has a 200% lead for Otherworld Warriors or Saviors category, key plus 3 as well. So, basically, he is the first Yellow Coin LR to have a Carnival leader, right? Like, the typical Carnival LR leads had 200% for the stats. This is the first Yellow Coin LR to have that. So, this is a massive upgrade, something I was not really expecting, but still, we got it. So that is a massive W, covering categories like Otherworld Warriors or Saviors. Those are two categories that would love a really good lead, of course, and especially Otherworld Warriors, you know, you love to see a Pikkon make sense for that, so I'm pretty happy in that respect as far as the leader skill is concerned. So that alone is a really nice positive there for Pikkon. Now with his base form passive, right? So of course, basic effects, key +3, attack and defense plus 250%. So crazy stats right there already with his passive. High chance to dodge. So remember, high chance is a 50% chance to dodge in general for his kit. Randomly changes orbs, key spheres of a certain type other than physical orbs to rainbow key spheres. When there is another Otherworld Warriors or tournament participants category ally in the same turn, all allies will gain key +3 and attack and defense plus 40%. So he has a really nice, accessible kind of support right there. If you have an Otherworld Warrior character, which is going to fit under his lead, that'll give the support. If you have a Tournament Participants category character, which fits under the STR Cell lead, that's going to work right there. So the support is something you love to see. Now, this is only for the turn that he is there, right? So obviously understand this is not like Glorio or like the physical Super Saiyan Trio where the support will last multiple turns. This is just for the turn in and of itself. So it is what it is, but it's still nice to have support in general. As the second slot unit in a turn for one time only, right? Otherworld Warriors or tournament participants category allies will boost their damage reduction by 10% for 2 turns. And as the second or third slot character in a turn in general, he will have built-in guard against all attacks, a high chance to perform a crit, so again a 50% chance to do a crit right there. Also launches an additional as a high chance to become a super, and he will boost his dodge chance by 20%. So 20% on top of the 50% right here, that is a 70% chance to dodge with built-in guard as well in slot 2 and slot 3. So pretty good character in that respect right there. We're still not done, by the way, but when attacking with 18 or more key, attack and defense increase by 150%. So we'll talk about the base form Pikkon first before we go into like his active, of course. By the way, with his active, so can be activated starting from turn 4 in the fight, and of course, he just gets serious, which is a really silly way to describe his active. It is so funny, but I mean, basically the way they're describing it is he'll just take off his weighted clothing and get serious. So I guess it makes sense, but they could have phrased that better. I guess like, remove weighted clothing or something. I don't know, but they could have done it like cooler, I guess. Like, this is not that cool. It's more so kind of like just silly, kind of stupid funny, to me at least. But he's got the active right there. We keep on going, with his super attack effect. So with his 12 key, a melee super right there, greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn, cause colossal damage to the enemy, and greatly lowers defense. So that is the 12 key right there. With his 18 key, which is Hyper Tornado, greatly raise attack, massively raise defense for 1 turn, cause massive damage, and I believe it doesn't show right here, so I have to go to the next one right here. But with his 18 key, he can greatly lower attack with his 18 key with the Hyper Tornado. So obviously, some nice kind of effects to offer. Massively raising defense is a really good plus for him, especially in slot 2 and slot 3 where you want to put him. That will make him a much more tanky character, especially when you may not be able to dodge. Of course, he has a bunch of built-in dodge, but, beyond that, if you're not lucky, if you're not getting the dodge to proc, maybe you're facing a character who can just bypass dodge in general, this will be something that will really help Pikkon survive with his guard and everything that he can offer. So, in the grand scheme of things, I will say Pikkon seems like a pretty good character in general. I'll talk about the categories and the links after we finish talking about the kit in general, but for base form Pikkon, this is actually pretty good. His super attack effects, I really do like them. I like that he is meant to be a slot 2 or slot 3 character. I like what he has to offer with the support and everything, and I will say, before anyone kind of forgets this part, the way this seems to work, at least as far as I can tell, is when you put him in slot 2, this condition will activate, and then after the 2 turns, then it will be gone. However, that does not mean you have to activate it right away. You could, in theory, float off Pikkon slot, like put him slot 3, keep him on slot 3 as long as you want, and then when the going gets tough, then you can put him in slot 2 and then activate this. Unless I'm mistaken, that should be how it works, and if that's the case, you could save this kind of damage reduction boost for when you really do need it. So Pikkon could be a very, very good character, a very nice kind of supporting character. It does kind of suck that he doesn't link with the AGL Pikkon, but that may suggest that you may just want to run Pikkons on opposite rotations in that sort of sense, right? So, that's what I'll say right there. But yeah, Pikkon in his base form looks pretty good. Now, again, with turn 4, you can go ahead and get him into his get serious mode where he takes off the weighted clothing. When that happens, then we go ahead into this form of Pikkon. So obviously some things will change, his passive will change, his super attack effects will change, but let's go ahead and check this out. So with his passive now that's updated with the transformation, so key +5, attacking defense plus 300%, built-in guard against all attacks in general, doesn't matter if he's slot 1, slot 2, or slot 3, great chance to dodge, great chance to perform a crit, so remember, great chance is a 70% chance to proc, right, so both of those have 70% chance, receives an additional key +2 per rainbow key sphere obtained, changes orbs of a certain type other than physical orbs to rainbow key spheres, which is good for him to get more key, and also, before receiving an attack within the turn, he's boosting his dodge chance again by 10%, so that's an 80% chance to dodge, and he's giving himself key +3. So, pretty good stuff right there. Something that's kind of interesting to me is this key +3, what it sounds like is if he takes an attack in slot 1 before he does his turn, then he will lose this key +3, which is kind of like a weird thing for him to lose. Like, the dodge chance, I understand. We've seen that happen with other characters with, like, losing damage reduction and stuff. I don't understand why he has to lose key. That part just doesn't really make sense to me, but it is what it is. When attacking, he's boosting attack and defense by 50%. When attacking with 12 or more key, he's further boosting attack and defense by 70%. When attacking with 18 or more key, he's further boosting attack and defense by 100%. With 24 key, he's boosting his attack again by 150%, and he's getting all attacks guaranteed to hit. So any sort of character who can dodge, like your opponent who can dodge, his attacks will guaranteed hit them with 24 keys. So kind of like AGL Jiren in that respect, which is something that I really do love to see. And also for every rainbow key sphere that he's obtaining, he's further boosting his attack by 30% and boosting his crit chance by 10%. So this character is pretty crazy in terms of what he can do. We're still not done, of course. We still have other things to talk about, like his supers, right? So, we keep on going. His categories and everything are the same. His links are the same, so understand, nothing's changed there. With his super attack effects, right? So, his 12 key, again, with the burning shoe and everything, greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn, causes colossal damage to the enemy, and greatly lowers defense. With his 18 key, Thunder Flash. So, this is the new super. This is the Key Blast super for his, like, transform state. Massively raise attack and defense for 1 turn, cause mega colossal damage to the enemy, no debuffing. So, do pay attention to that, of course. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to Pikkon, I will say, this Pikkon is kind of deceptively strong. Like, last night I thought he was pretty strong when I first saw his kit, but he looks even better now that I'm rereading it once again, now that I have my energy with me. He looks a lot better. Now, obviously, something important to note, when you transform Pikkon, it doesn't matter when you do it, but when you transform him, he will be more of an individualistic kind of character. He will no longer be providing support. He will no longer be doing the things that his base form allows. So, that's something to, like, really pay attention to. The only support that he technically offers is that he can be a rainbow orb changer. So that can be pretty good. Of course, that will help out someone like AGL Gogeta who wants rainbow key spheres, so that's pretty good. But really, he is a character who is in it for himself once you transform him, and really, he is good at doing that. In my opinion, he may be a bit better than Cell in that respect in general, but, the thing is, this character has built-in guard, 80% chance to dodge in slot 1. In general, I guess 80% chance to dodge, really, but, until he receives an attack. So I guess, yeah, it's technically an 80% chance dodge in general with a 70% chance at minimum. And then also 7% chance with crit, plus the rainbow key spheres. You get 3 more rainbow key spheres, and then that will boost his crit chance to 100% right there. So, getting crits on this character is going to be very easy. The stat boosts are going to be very massive as well. He's boosting his key per rainbow key sphere, so he has a kit, especially when transformed, that kind of feeds into itself, which is something that I cannot understate how good that is. Sometimes you have characters where their kits want you to pair them with some, like, other allies. Pikkon, especially in this mode, you don't need to worry about that because he's going to be orb changing for himself. He's going to be giving additional key for himself. With more key, he's going to be stronger and better. He's going to be boosting himself in general with his crit chance and everything. So, he is kind of self-sufficient in that sense as a character. So you do love to see that. His super attack effects are good. So a really powerful character there. Now with his base form, before I forget about that, obviously his transform state is individualistic. His base form is a bit more support focused, where you do want to put him slot 2, slot 3. With that slot 2, of course, he could give a bit of damage reduction, which is something you love to see. It'll give allies key and attack and defense support right there. So all that stuff is good. But it seems to me that, like, when the going gets tough, when you get towards the harder phases in the fight, by then you will want to probably put Pikkon in his transform state. Now, you could get away with him being in his base form because, of course, 7% chance to dodge in general in slot 3, that could work, but I think ideally you may want to consider putting him in slot 1 and stuff when you transform him. So it's a very interesting character, a very good character. I really do like what he has to offer. I don't think he's going to be on the level of Cell Max was last year, but understand, he is really good. Like, I think he's actually really, really good. But it is tough because despite him being pretty good, I will say right now, at least for me personally, I am probably going to skip this character. I would recommend a lot of people skip this character personally, but obviously if you want to pull for Pikkon, if your favorite character is Pikkon, have at it. But as a character, he seems pretty strong. I will give him credit there. I just think that in the grand scheme of things, knowing that we have the Golden Week celebration around the corner, I would probably save my Dragonstones and wait for the bigger celebration that is coming in just a few short weeks. Now, before I forget, so let's go ahead and talk about his categories. So only on 6 categories, not the most diversifiable character, but other warriors, saviors, both are part of his lead. Worthy rivals, battle of wits, story figures, and tournament participants. So obviously, it makes sense that you would have to be on tournament participants. That's the category that is kind of getting buffed this month. So that makes sense. But, story figures, battle of wits, those are really good categories as well for him to be on. Worthy rivals. Him leading these 2 categories again, that is really huge because when we look at the categories, they could benefit from some more buffs. Right now, of course, Otherworld Warriors is one of those categories where it has a lot of power on the top end, where, of course, you see the 10th anniversary fusions and you see Go Frieza. Now, again, I get it. A lot of people don't like Go Frieza. Specifically, they don't like Frieza. But Go Frieza is still pretty solid. Like, let's not get it twisted. He's still a solid unit. Not the, like, ideal character, but still pretty solid. The 10th anniversary fusions, they are insane. You're talking about, you know, like the Easy A AGL Pikkon. He's a part of this list as well. You know, characters like them, they can work pretty well. You have the Super Easy A Super Gogeta, who's pretty good in slot 3 or slot 2, for example. You know, you have all sorts of characters like them. So, you know, this category is already pretty good without Pikkon. Pikkon just really adds another level to it, in my opinion. Not the craziest level, but still a nice kind of benefit there. With Saviors, Saviors is another one of those categories where, yes, you got like the STR Hercules, or like a partial lead for that. You know, there's not really a crazy lead for the category other than Tekkon. With Pikkon being a 200% lead, he officially becomes the best lead for this category. This category includes some really good characters as well, like Family Kamehameha Gohan, like Namek Goku with his Easy A, of course, and everything. You have like Tekkon, of course, you know, in Gotenks, some solid characters, not really that crazy, but still pretty solid. So, you know, the combination of the two categories is a massive plus. Now, some people may say, why would I want to go ahead and run the Pikkon lead when, in theory, looking at all these different characters, and especially looking at some of the options right here, I could just go ahead and put the 10th anniversary fusions and run them instead. And that is true, but I think, you know, it doesn't really matter what sort of lead you pick. At the end of the day, the fact of the matter is Pikkon is leading two categories that often don't see a lot of love, and when they do, it's kind of all over the place, right? But leading Otherworld Warriors, leading Saviors, that is pretty good in and of itself. So, credit where credit is due, Pikkon does some nice stuff there. Now, something kind of interesting, and I didn't mean for this to be like a hate on Cell type of thing, but something that's very interesting to me is, before we saw the Part 2 LR, I was of the assumption that our Part 2 LR with Pikkon would be the savior for STR Cell, would improve Cell's viability and everything, and interestingly enough, Pikkon does not include Cell with his leader skill, so that was very surprising to me. I will say right now, compared to last April, like, you know, last year's April, this month with tournament participants has been kind of wonky, where it feels like half the category is split into opposite directions, or half the buffs are split in opposite directions. I mean, when we look at the whole month of April in terms of buffs, right? Of course, we got the STR Cell, we got Goku and Gohan, we got AGL Cell, Super Kaioken Goku, Pikkon, the Easy A's for Janemba and Pikkon right here, but the whole buffs are kind of going into opposite directions, it feels like. Pikkon doesn't really help in that respect because he's covering Otherworld Warriors and Saviors. That's not something that Cell fits into, so there's like a weird kind of split between the whole team, but at the same time, that may actually be a bit of a benefit to Cell's value because Cell leading tournament participants can bring everything together for the most part. So, you know, interesting stuff, I guess, right there. You know, I'll give credit where credit's due, though. The leads for both of the characters are pretty good, so all things considered, you know, pretty nice there. Now, the other thing I want to go ahead and talk about before I forget is the link skills. So, of course, you know, Supreme Warrior, Experienced Fighters, Shocking Speed, Cold Judgment, all that link skills, right? So, you know, if we're talking about how he can link, right, I think a good example is to show the AGL Pikkon. And the reason why, and actually I had his kit pulled up here, so I didn't need to pull him up right here, but you know, with his links, right, his links are pretty much the same as the LR Pikkon. Now, the only difference is that the AGL Pikkon here has Gentleman and the LR Pikkon does not, and this AGL Pikkon does not have Legendary Power where the LR Pikkon does. So that's basically the difference, where LR Pikkon takes out Gentleman and swaps in Legendary Power, but most of the links are the same. So basically, the links that LR Pikkon has is going to have Supreme Warrior, so that's a bit of an attack boost right there. Experienced Fighters for more attack boost right there. Otherworld Warriors, so attack and defensive boost at level 10. Of course, Cold Judgment, so a lot of defensive boost there. Shocking Speed, which is key in defensive support right there. And Fierce Battle, so attack plus right there. And Legendary Power is going to be more attack boost right there. So understand the Pikkon probably is going to have a lot of offensive viability and power. So we're going to love to see that, of course. When it comes to the linking options, right, understand again, AGL Pikkon cannot link with the LR Pikkon, so that does suck. But when we look at some of the other options that do exist, AGL Nail is one of the better options, at least for the time being. The Physical Piccolo is another good linking option, but really a lot of these characters are not that great at this point in time. So that is a big issue when it comes to the link options for Pikkon. Probably one of the better characters, ironically, could be Nail, and even then, I would be hard-pressed to say that you want to run Nail at this point in time. The LR, you know, Gogeta, of course, they will have 4 links activated, of course, but at the same time, you know, they're not the best links for defensive power. They're really more so offensively focused, which is fine because Pikkon can work slot 2 and slot 3, but just understand that Pikkon is not the best character when it comes to link options in that respect, at least for the time being. Now, one thing I want to also mention is his super attack option. So if you do choose to summon for Pikkon, that is up to you, of course, but when you do get him, do not waste Kai's trying to level him up, because there is a free-to-play way to farm his super attack. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the AGL Pikkon shown right here should come from the Super Strike event, which you can find in the Dokkan events tab in like the general story mode or whatever, but you can go ahead and farm this Pikkon and use him as fodder for super attack farming. So don't waste your Kais, don't waste your Sleepy Kais or Grand Kais or whatever. Just go ahead and farm it free to play. If you're trying to go ahead and boost Pikkon, if you go ahead and pull for Pikkon, go ahead and do this method, because it will save you a lot of trouble down the road if you want to save your Kais for some more important characters down the line. So that's my suggestion right there, and pretty much we've talked about everything that there is to talk about Pikkon. But the final thing I want to cover, of course, which I said I would do earlier in the vid, is talk about how he will kind of pair up with the STR Cell, because this is the important thing. I, of course, made a vid talking about how STR Cell is a very bad character. I ranted on him and everything. Some people were kind of saying I was going a bit too harsh on Cell, but I stand on what I said, and I will say right now, the thing is, Pikkon, interestingly enough, does not fix what Cell has to be issues. Now, if Pikkon was a bit more like Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 GT Goku, Cell will be an insane character. If Pikkon was maybe a different character altogether, maybe Cell would see a lot more love. But the way they're designed, they're not going to be linking with each other all that well, and Pikkon in his base form can provide a bit of support, but it's mainly stat-based, and I don't know if that's something that will benefit Cell as much as we would like to see. But understand that Cell can still work pretty well with that 10%, damage reduction boost for 2 turns. That can be a very big benefit for Cell in general, and of course, when you look at like running maybe a double Pikkon lead, which is probably not going to be what you want to do if you're going to include Cell, but if you're talking about in general Pikkon options, there could be ways to incorporate things really nicely with the support. So with Cell, running a double Cell lead for tournament participants or Worldwide Chaos, you could run Pikkon there, of course, and that support can hurt. That can really help. So in the grand scheme of things, I think Cell and Pikkon can be a nice kind of combination together. I don't think it's going to be the best combination ever since Peanut Butter and Jelly. I don't think it's going to be the Naruto and Sasuke of the Dokkan gameplay right now. So understand that if you have Cell, which I recommended a lot of people do not summon for Cell, I feel like Cell and Pikkon will both have bait banners. But if you summon for Cell, if you got Cell, that does not mean that you need to summon for Pikkon. Pikkon will be a great addition, but that having Pikkon is not going to all of a sudden make your Cell nigh invincible. So understand that while there's going to be a good combination there, it's not going to be the biggest difference in the world to all of a sudden make your Cell a top TOR in the game, that like a top level player in the game or whatever. Like, understand that is kind of the limitations with Cell. Cell will still benefit from Pikkon, just not to the level that maybe some people wanted to see when we first knew our Part 2 LR was going to be coming to the game. So that's what I'll say right there. But there you go. So we have broken down not AGL, but LR Pikkon, and we have actually done a lot of different talking right now. Right now my brain is turning into mush. But if you guys enjoy the new breakdown format and everything, of course, show your support. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know what other stuff would you like me to talk about in these breakdowns, because I will tell you right now, I restarted this vid like 10 times trying to get myself into the rhythm of this. But let me know what you guys would like me to change for the breakdown vids going forward. Of course, I think I will only do it for these types of big release characters, the premier release characters, because if Dokkan does data downloads with a bunch of EZAs and sub EZAs or World Tournament characters, there are too many characters to go through, so I think at that point it'll be a bit asinine. But in general, I think with these premier releases, I think it will work pretty well. So let me know what you guys would feel in the comments down below about that. Again, if you guys enjoyed the vid, be sure to drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, show your support. We are on the road to 1K subs. Also, comment down below your thoughts again as well. Let me know what you guys think about the new LR Pikkon. I think he's going to be very strong, but I will say right now, I do not think that you will want to summon for him, knowing that we have the Golden Week celebration right around the corner. So that's my thoughts right there. Otherwise, that being said, take care, stay blessed. Thank you all so much for watching this vid, and I will see you all in the next one.